Good morning. Welcome to the Lorain County Board of Commissioners meeting of October 20th, 2021. This meeting will now come to order. We will rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our inspirational word for the day comes from Ephesians. God has created us for a life of good deeds, which he has already prepared for us to do.
Thank you, Commissioner Lundy. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Here.
Commissioner Moore?
Here.
Commissioner Lundy?
Here.
Okay, we'll begin the day with a presentation. We have here today to do a presentation is Diane Sunigal, Lorain County Job and Family Services Plan Administrator, and she's going to update us on the Emergency Rental Assistance Plan. Welcome, and thank you for coming.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioner Hung, Commissioner Moore, Commissioner Lundy.
Good morning.
And good morning, Madam Clerk. Thank you for affording me the opportunity to talk about the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. The Emergency Rental Assistance Program made funding available to assist households that are unable to pay rent or utilities. Millions of Americans across the country faced deep rental debt, shutoff of utility services, and the loss of basic housing security, with evictions looming over their heads. Although affordable housing predated the pandemic, COVID-19 exacerbated the situation, leaving tenants in a state of crisis with unstable housing and landlords without rental income that they rely on to support their families. Job and Family Services provides a variety of financial and supportive services to low-income families and individuals who are employed or seeking employment. The Emergency Rental Assistance Program is similar to programs of which Job and Family Services already implements, in that applicants must meet eligibility requirements and guidelines for an eligibility determination to be made. Eligible households must be obligated to pay rent, which means it's not for homeowners. One or more household members must have qualified for unemployment benefits or had a reduction in household income, incurred significant cost or other financial hardship directly or indirectly due to COVID-19, demonstrative risk of experiencing homelessness or housing instability, and with an income at or below the 80% area median income. The documentation requirements are relatively minimal, but they do generally include a photo ID for the applicant, citizenship for all household members, which could be a birth certificate or social security card, income for the 2020 calendar year, or they can use the past 90 days income, which could be their pay stubs, unemployment documentation, award letter, depending on what their source of income is. And then their current lease agreement, and then the past due utility bills for which they're seeking assistance. From the landlord, we need a form completed with the months and the amounts that are past due. And when they sign this participation form, they are agreeing to accept the amount owed and not to evict the tenant for non-payment of those months covered under this program. We also need them to sign a tax form W-9 so that we can issue the payment. Now, the recommended method of applying for the assistance would be through our portal, which is covidhelp.lccaa.net. However, if anyone has limited computer access or internet issues, they can contact Job and Family Services by calling 440-284-4423, and we will connect them with a worker who will work them through the process. We also have bilingual staff that speak Spanish, and as well as a contracted vendor if there's any other spoken language. And although this program is being administered by Job and Family Services, due to confidentiality regulations governing our other programs, we cannot automatically just go into their files and get documents out of their other files without a signed release. But we've worked out a situation where if they indicate that they're receiving other benefits for our programs, we will send them the release so that we can go ahead and get those documents. Anything that we can do to help expedite that application process for them. We've also established contacts with all of the utility companies who all have been extremely cooperative with us with our summary requests, as well as if we contact them to pledge for payment to either turn the service back on or to avoid shut off of the service. Eligible households may receive up to 12 months of assistance for arrears and then an additional 3 months for prospective payments to ensure housing stability. To date, we have been able to assist nearly 1,300 households with assistance with rental obligations and/or utilities. And as of today, we have paid out $5,395,650, approximately 64.5% of our fund. We still have many applications in the pipeline, but we also still have funding available to meet that need. I would like to thank the board for entrusting Job and Family Services with this grant and for all of the support for these past several months. It has not been without its aches and pains, but I can tell you it has been so rewarding to talk to thankful tenants and the landlords appreciative, but most importantly, keeping individuals and families and children in their homes. I sent you some additional figures. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to entertain them.
We spent about 80,000, I think, on the computer program. Has all the bugs been worked out on that, I think? Or
Yes, yeah, it was about 65,000, I think.
was it 65? Yeah, it was. And the way we had it, we're going to break it down. Can you get me some data on that? Because I wanted it. We set it up so that we could know who was benefiting, like which communities, and that's the way it was designed. And that's the kind of data I was hoping to get.
Sure.
So if you could get that for me, I'd appreciate
Absolutely.
it. Okay. And we got, this is on the initial that we received, the 9 mil, not the other. I think we got another 7 million, didn't we?
Yes, that's correct.
No,
So
we're good though, because I think in the beginning that was September 1st had to be spent, but they gave us an extension, correct?
They did. They gave an extension making the funds available through September 30th, 2022. However, there is a reallocation process. If grantees are underperforming based on the U.S. Treasury reports, they can reallocate funds to other grantees who've already obligated or expended 65% of their funds.
Okay,
So
so
we are there.
Yeah, we should be there then.
The
That's what-
September
that was my
report
next
was just
question.
submitted October 15th, so that's what they're going to base their information off of.
Okay.
And we did have a big uptick in September, pushed a lot of payments out.
And I see that less than 10% administration fee.
Yes, so out of that original fund, we could use 10% for administrative funds.
And then what happened was there was a bidding process for a marketing program, and it was my understanding that Marks and Solutions won that bid for $75,000 to get out into the urban areas, the disadvantaged population. And he was informed that the commissioners or somebody decided not to go in that direction and market that. In the beginning, I was very adamant about using different forms of marketing, and somehow, somewhere, somebody stopped that contract. Do you have any idea? Were you involved in any of those meetings, or?
No, I wasn't involved in anything as far as marketing for this program.
Well,
I
Mark Ballard is the owner of that company. I talked to him. I said, "Have you talked to Tim Carrion?" He says, "Yes." He had no knowledge of it. So I'm wondering if it was this, if our board stopped that, or somebody at either Job and Family Services stopped that, because I thought it was very important to get it out into the communities, the disadvantaged communities that needed it the most. And Mark Ballard won that bid. There was several bids, and then all of a sudden he was told it was no longer available to him.
Yeah, I can't speak to as far as,
Could you
that,
find out
that
who
marketing
made that?
contract. I can and get back to you, yes.
I would
mean,
appreciate
we did
that.
a lot of marketing of the program. We
Oh, I'm
got
well
the
aware.
information.
I had that discussion from day one. I think you're in the
Okay.
meeting, and I said, we are not gonna go back to the old school. I goes, we need creative ways to get into the disadvantaged communities. And I thought that was agreed upon. The bids went out, and was, there was a winning bid, and it was never awarded, and I'm trying to find out why.
Okay, I
Thank you.
will have someone get that information to you.
Thank you.
Diane, if I could ask, so I see in June we went from 314 pending documentation applications to 664. Do they just not answer, are you guys calling them, are you emailing them back, are they just basically not answering?
Well,
Not
it's
following
probably a
back up?
combination. It's a combination of both, some don't ever follow through. We have a lot of applications that people submit into the portal, or they create just the account part of it, and then never complete the actual application process. So, it's kind of a fluid system, so there are applications that will be in a certain status that we withdraw because they never follow through, but then later contact us. So then it's into a different, changes to a different status of, eventually submitted for funding if we do get all of the documentation.
So do we have an appropriate personnel, somebody's actually looking at these, it's not just a number that's growing and growing, because you have $2 million kind of right there, so is
Correct.
somebody actually looking at it? And-
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
there's three different phases of where those applications right now that are that couple hundred that we're working on right now. One, they've either just submitted the application, and there's probably about a week delay that we have before a processor looks at it, and then it's gathering all the information. Some of it is we're waiting for a response back from the tenant, or some we're waiting for the property manager acceptance for that landlord agreement.
Okay,
So different phases. I said we just increased a lot of those applications and pushed them through final review and submitted for funding, and did get quite a few checks back Monday, so
yeah,
to get out.
and if you could copy all of us in when you find out that answer on that advertising, because I'd be
Yes.
curious to know as well. We want to make sure that, we still have, as you said, we still have a certain amount plus another 7 million, so we want to make sure we're marketing it and the best that we can.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Lundy?
I just wanted to inform the board that it was about a week ago, I think, we had a big Zoom meeting where we
Yes.
looped in the magistrates with the muni courts and the clerks of courts, also the Bar Association, and I'm trying to think of who else was in on that call. I know you were and JFS was. Just so that we could get around the table and talk about what was working, what wasn't working, what we needed to improve upon. I know one of the suggestions was that we try to see if we can be there on the mornings when the muni courts, and I guess sometimes afternoon, have their housing courts, so that we're directly available there to provide information to people so that they have are aware of the resources that are available, especially when they're facing eviction. And I know there was discussion about too many people are simply just going online and registering, I guess you could say, putting their information into the portal, as you said.
Yes.
But then they've got to realize you got to follow it up with all the
Yes.
documentation and all the signed documents. And that's the part, I think, as we've experienced with JFS, regardless of what the program is, that getting the paperwork in, because normally when we get a constituent call here, we check on it, and JFS says, well, we still don't have this form back or this
Right.
paperwork. And so we're running into the similar thing. So for those who want to take advantage of the program, please know that you can't just register, you actually have to start getting the paperwork in. What's good about this program is, the landlords can initiate the process as well,
Yes.
too. And that's what makes a big difference. And in the check on the utilities, those go, directly to the utility companies.
Correct.
Especially for the cities, those who have their own utilities departments. This is a good chance for them to get caught up on a lot of back bills and revenue that they're losing. I've heard some communities have some revenue losses or carrying outstanding bills of, $600,000 or more unpaid bills. So this helps them out as well, too. But I know there's an effort then to try to see if we can somehow get to these housing courts and provide that information. I did want to ask you about the administrative fees, because I know we're able to use 10% of these funds, and we've been trying to staff this to process it because it's very document intensive. But I thought I was hearing that we were starting to run pretty low on those funds and additional funds may be needed.
Yeah, I did contact the fiscal administrator, Jeffrey King, about that, and he indicated he still has some calculations to do as far as where we're at with that administrative amount, but I think we're at least 6.6% where he was at with his calculations, but he still had some calculations to do, because we are have a time study that anybody who's working on the ERA program, we will pay their salaries and out of that ERA fund rather than out of our other allocations, through Job and Family Services. So I know he still has some calculations that he needs to do to figure out if we've reached that amount. So I'll have to get back to you whether we've actually hit that 10% or not. And then the next fund stream is 15% admin funds that can be used for administrative.
So we're not running into any danger of having our funds reallocated somewhere else. I
No.
hear the stories nationally of a lot of places where they're going to end up losing their money.
Yeah, and those programs are going to be required to do a performance improvement plan if they're underperforming. But based on our reports that are in the U.S. Treasury and the data that we have, we shouldn't be in jeopardy of that.
So Jeff, sorry.
I'm sorry. Just one quick follow-up on that, if I could, Commissioner, is that, we talk about this being so document intensive, I guess you could say, that when we send this information then for processing for the checks as well, too, that's kind of slows up the process a little bit, too, because they also have to review the documentation. Is that correct?
That's correct. And it's not so much that it's, documentation heavy as it is, some of these bills are 10, 12 or more months behind. And especially with the utility bills, tenants, it's difficult for them, or they just provide us with the bill. So we end up having to get a statement of the summary of the history and have to enter all of those back in with all of the fees that are in there. So it's just a little bit more time consuming than just, here's the outstanding bill and we're going to pay that amount. You have to list each of those individual months to ensure you're not paying more than what the statute says that you can pay with the 12 months of arrears.
Oh, no, so Jeff's putting together, he assumes, or roughly, he sees about 6%.
Yeah,
is the
I'm not sure
administrative
how many weeks out that he has yet to calculate, but yes, yeah, he's about 6.6%.
And we're going to have 15% in the next batch.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So we've,
So we're still going to have about another $400,000 in excess funds from the administration fee. Does that just stay at JFS, or does it come to our general fund, or can we actually spend some money on marketing and let the people know about it? Because that's a lot of money, $400,000 that we can use to offset some of our other.
yeah, I'm not
areas.
sure if marketing is something that it can be used for. I know it talks about housing instability services and things like that out of the fund, but
We discussed how we're going to reach out and we could spend the money, and honestly, we can actually reallocate it somehow to get it to work. The bottom line is, we have 924,000. If you're only using 6% of it, that's about, a half of, 4 to 500,000. So there's money. So like I said, I'd like to see Jeff's numbers on that
sure,
in
yeah.
regards to how he came up with those numbers once you get them. Thank you.
Yep.
Diane, you mentioned, I think 64% you said was the expenditures.
Yes.
Where are we ranking on a national average? Have you got to see any numbers on that?
Well, no, I don't have a ranking as far as where we're at across the country, and there's not really a ranking necessarily even of the grants that are been issued in Ohio. I mean, I do know anyone can go into the U.S. Treasury and look under the reporting there to see what's been spent so far in each county or municipality that had received funding, and then as well as the state. But I think our expenditure ratio through August 31st was 38%. And I said we did have a big increase in September payments. So they go off of what is actually expended, which has actually been paid out, or obligated, which has actually been approved. So whether it's sitting, waiting for the check to be issued from the auditor's office, or we've actually reviewed it and still gathering the documents to send to the auditor, that's still considered obligated. So that's really what the number that they're looking at is what's obligated. So I don't have I don't have a
Just
ranking for
wondering.
where we fall,
It
but
seems like we push them through as quickly as we can.
yeah, there are some counties or cities that I have done some comparisons. I do look at the numbers just to see, if we're using the best practices. I mean, I'm always looking at that for all of our programs. If there's anything that we can do better, I'm there to try to help do that. So there are some that are struggling, to get their dollars out. And I think, another county just approached asking if, I would help them through some of their, process to improve their best practices to help get their dollars out.
Okay, thank Any further questions or comments?
I guess I was just going to point out, and also we've learned through this experience the reality that there are some landlords who don't want the check, they just want the tenants out, correct?
Yeah, but it's been minimal. Really, for the most part, landlords have been very cooperative. Once, and especially now that we've been into this for almost, 9 months, or it's been out there that the program exists. I think some were hesitant at first, and then I think there are some landlords that have experienced that don't live in the state or nearby. So in trying to participate in this program, they may have made visits to properties and then found that the properties weren't in the condition that they were, wanted to see. So, in those cases, we were at an impasse, even with mediation through the Bar Association, could not, resolve that situation. And, we help them move into a different, a place, which we can do under that program as well.
Yeah, I know the Bar Association's been doing a great job, really trying
Yeah.
to work, but they don't exactly have a bunch of people they can allocate to it either.
Yeah, exactly. And we do what we can. I mean, I've had landlords contact me, what is the status of the application? I said, sometimes I'll find that, the tenant will indicate that they've, initiated the process, but really they've only gone as far as to get that pre-qualification letter. So, we'll reach out to the tenant and say, look, your landlord contacted us. It's really to your benefit if you, can move through the process and complete the application so that, it's benefiting both the landlords and the tenants. I said, we really do want to keep people in their homes as much as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for the opportunity.
Okay, we will move to B, resolutions. Madam Clerk,
Number 1, investments.
move to approve.
Second?
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes,
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Number 2, appropriations.
move to approve.
Second?
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes,
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
3, transfers.
move to approve.
Second?
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes,
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Number 4, advances, repayments. There were none. Number 5, requisitions.
move to approve.
Second?
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes,
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Number 6, travel. There were none. Number 7, bills.
move to approve.
Second?
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board?
We just have 1 week without bills? Is that possible? That's what we say at home, too.
Right?
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
The next item of business is number 8, authorize various personnel actions as indicated on the summary sheet for employees within the jurisdiction of the Lorraine County Board of Commissioners. At the conclusion of today's board meeting, the commissioners may recess into an executive session to discuss personnel and new hires and board appointments. Number 9. The next item of business is number 9. I move to approve and waive the reading of the meeting minutes of October 9th and October 13th of 2021.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Moore. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Okay, the next item of business is number 10. Madam Clerk, please read the resolution into the record.
Enter in a tower lease agreement with Cleveland Communications, Inc., Parma, Ohio, in the amount of $1,500 per month to place an antenna and related apparatus on the tower at 255 Burns Road, Elyria, in order to facilitate safety communication services with other municipal governments.
Okay, move to approve.
Second?
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Okay, Commissioners, this went through probably 3 or 4 different, Madam Clerk updating it, so we do have the dates correct on the resolution. Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Present.
Okay, community development. The next item of business is number 11. Madam Clerk, please read the resolution into the record.
Submit a target of opportunity CDBG CV funding application to the Ohio Department of Development for various projects in Lorraine County and recommends Neighborhood Alliance for their shelter project renovation project.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board, to which at this time I will introduce Rob Duncan, our Community Development Director, to engage us in discussion.
Commissioners, I appreciate you allowing me to take a couple minutes this morning, and I'll be introducing our friends from Neighborhood Alliance. But in community development, there's so many positive things taking place in our county. As you know, the last census showed that we have a 3.9% growth rate, which is the largest growth rate in north central Ohio or northeast Ohio. So that being said, we have a lot of new businesses, we have a lot of new homes being built all across the county. But up in community development, we have an obligation to look at the whole picture. And we do have some in our community who are not as fortunate. And it's very important for us to be able to work with the many great entities within our county, and one of those being the Neighborhood Alliance. So when they approached us about this project, we were actually very excited about it, an opportunity to expand the emergency shelter within the county here. Obviously, as many other things with COVID, we found that there were problems, there were needs that we had that we weren't aware of before that. And just a couple points I'll make on this project, and then I'll introduce Ms. Foss, and she can tell you more. But one of the questions, and I think Commissioner Lundy asked me, was, is this coming out of our CDBG funds? It is not. This is additional funds that are available specifically through COVID, and it does not affect our CDBG funds here. In this potential project also, as the project you were just talking about previously, does have funds available for us to be able to use, what's the word I'm looking for, to help finance our staff. And the last thing I'll say on this before I invite Ms. Foss up is that the package that you guys received was information that was forwarded on, but it was actually put together by our own Ian Berry up in community development. So, that package you received from Neighborhood Alliance was actually put together. So I'm not even sure if Ms. Foss has seen it yet, but we'll make sure she gets a copy since she got credit for it. But it's my pleasure to introduce Alicia Foss. She is the president and CEO of Neighborhood Alliance, and I'll let her introduce her team. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Good morning.
Welcome.
I'm Alicia Foss, President and CEO of Neighborhood Alliance. I think you guys know me by now. But thank you for having us here today to talk a little bit about the shelter renovation project. As you know, Neighborhood Alliance has been in Lorraine County for 94 years, serving the community. And our core services that we offer include child enrichment, family support, senior enrichment, which we've discussed at length recently, and also shelter and emergency services. So our shelter and emergency services programs, that's what I want to discuss a little bit today with this renovation project for our shelter. Neighborhood Alliance runs the Haven Center Homeless Shelter, which is the largest homeless shelter in the county. We have 68 beds available typically. It's a little lower because of COVID right now. And we take in people who are experiencing homelessness, whether that's a male, a single female, or a family. We are at this point the only shelter in the county for families and females. Right now, we are working at a 46-bed capacity because of COVID and because of the layout of the shelter. So over the course of the last year, we have served 555 individuals in our shelter. It tends to be about 30% children that we see coming through the shelter on any given year. And we are seeing an increase in the volume of calls that we receive due to the pandemic. Some people who were couch surfing with family members are now being put out. This has been going on since the start of the pandemic, so this is, we're 18, 19 months into this now. And last winter, we saw the greatest need for warming centers that we've seen in the county as far back as I can recall. We stepped up last year and helped out with the warming center projects where normally it was churches that would find volunteers within their congregation to be able to come in and support those warming centers and allow people to come in and have a place to go when the shelters were full, which does happen on a regular basis here in the county. So we were able to help out with that. We worked closely with our partner agencies, with Catholic Charities and Coordinated Entry, and also with Salvation Army, Blessing House, and many others to work through that process of getting these warming centers up and running. One of the things that we've noticed throughout the pandemic is the need for renovations in our own shelter. And we knew we needed it before, but the pandemic has sort of elevated that issue. In our renovation plan, we are seeking to put an addition on the building. It would allow us to go from 68 bed capacity to 84, which would allow us increased space for families and individuals who are experiencing homelessness in the county. We would also renovate our dorm rooms and renovate the existing three-story structure that is currently housing our senior nutrition program and our early intervention program. Those two programs, you might be aware, are moving to our new building in Elyria as soon as we get it renovated. So we are working to renovate that existing structure and turn that building over on East 30th in Lorraine into nothing but shelter and emergency services. We would have the capacity to serve more people. We also house the county's PATH program, which is the homeless outreach program that tends to those who are unsheltered homeless or living in uninhabitable places or sleeping on park benches or things like that. Our team goes out into the community and helps support them, connect them with mental health services, and invite them into shelter where there's space, but then also help them find housing. So the part of the renovation would also encompass additional services for the PATH program as well. Some of the reasons that we're needing to do this at this point, the increased capacity due to the pandemic, we really need to respond to this need in something other than putting them in hotels or putting them in warming centers. The hotels have been fantastic and they work really well for sheltering people, but there are rules we have to follow with that and time limits, and it's also very costly to the organization, and we've had to seek outside funding to support that. We're hoping with this renovation that we can eliminate the need for that model and build these rooms in a way that they're going to have smaller capacity in our dorm rooms. Our dorm rooms currently have 7 people to a room, and with COVID, we've had to reduce that to 5 or 6, depending on the people that we have in the shelter at any given time. So that has lowered our capacity there. Going to smaller dorm rooms will allow us to have 2 people to a dorm room, or a family will have, 4 to 8 in a room, depending on the size of the room. But that will allow us to keep them safer from COVID and other communicable diseases that we see run rampant in the shelter, especially during the winter time. In addition to that, we will build out separate spaces for virtual appointments. One of the big issues that we saw during the pandemic with the shelter is that as everybody's doctor's appointments went to virtual, they had nowhere that they could have a private conversation with their medical provider. And that's a huge issue, especially when you're dealing with mental health concerns. Not everybody wants everybody else hearing their discussion with their doctor. So we want to provide a space where they can have those discussions privately. Those spaces would also be used for the children who are sheltered with us, who are attending online classes. Right now, if they were to attend online school, they would be in their dorm room with their entire family present. So that might mean their infant sister and their older brother who's on another class doing online learning at the same time, plus mom or dad in the room with them, which isn't really conducive to learning. The new renovations will also allow for good social distancing in the dorm rooms, but also in the bathrooms. Right now we have 2 dorm-style restrooms that are about 30 people to a bathroom, and that's very difficult to keep clean and keep sanitized so that people don't spread infectious disease. We also have a shared dining facility where everybody is in the same room together. We don't have enough space to get them 6 feet apart, and they are unmasked because they're eating. So we want to expand those facilities and give ourselves enough room to provide adequate space for the residents who are staying with us. Overall, the goal of this renovation is to ensure that we have enough space for the homeless in our community to be sheltered appropriately and to be able to provide them with better services so that they can get the resources they need to move out of the homeless shelter and on into permanent housing. if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those for you.
Take it you're working with Job and Family Services, I hope?
Of course. Yes, we love the rental assistance program. Yes. No, that's very good. It helps to keep people out of our shelters, which is extremely important. We have enough people who are showing up there as it is, so anyone that they can help keep housed is, that's really important.
Tell us about on the hotel front,
Yes.
being able to provide funding and where to get the funding and things of that nature, because I know the hotels are having problems finding help, so they're probably only making so many rooms available, and
Yeah.
walk us through how that whole process works.
So it was actually incredibly easy last year to find hotels that would take our folks. This year, we're definitely having a struggle with it. There have been some legal actions that have been taken against hotels who have sheltered the homeless and kept them there for longer than 30 days in the state of Ohio, and other issues that have come up due to the homeless being in hotels. So some of the hotels in the area are now saying no, they won't shelter the homeless any longer, which means it falls back on us to find a place to put them, and that's limited. When we do find hotels that we can put people in, the rooms are limited. They are having staffing issues just as we are. I think that's across the board. But they also are getting very selective about who they will take and what that looks like. We have some hotels that are charging us a deposit of $100 just to put somebody in a room overnight, plus the room fee. And that gets really, really inefficient as far as money is concerned very quickly. We're looking at about $70 a room per night, not per person, because we put 2 people to a room or families in 1 room, but that's per room, $70 a night. Average shelter stay before the pandemic was about 45 days. Right now, we're looking at about 6 months before we can find them affordable housing in the county, which is a totally separate issue that we'll discuss another time, but definitely a problem that we're seeing. So the hotels, we had 2 particularly that we worked with last year, and this year we're struggling to find hotels that will take the homeless. So we have worked with the different foundations in the county and talked with them about funding for homeless vouchers. We have worked with the city of Lorraine. We have worked with ODSA and gotten funding through them. We get grant funding for the shelter to begin with through ODSA, and they had some CARES money. They've been able to help us with shelter in hotels over the course of the last couple of years. So those are some of the areas where we're getting the funding.
Was the Days End's one of them that you guys were using quite a bit?
We had used them in the past, and then
shut
they,
down.
yeah,
That's why I
they,
didn't know if that was what
yeah.
you were referring to.
no, there are other ones that we were using that have said no, they won't take our vouchers anymore.
Would you say Route 58 would be a nice description?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's very hard to find hotels that are in our price range that also will allow us to place people.
Do you have, when you guys are doing this, do you have breakdowns on how many are really, like, that are families versus those that maybe you find, as you said, you go around and find people that are homeless and help them get back on their feet?
Yeah, as far as individuals versus families?
Correct.
Yes, we do have a breakdown. I can send you that if you'd
I would
like.
like to see that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've heard the complaints along Route 58 in regards to what was going on there. So.
Yeah, and unfortunately, some are ours.
control that.
Yeah, some of them belong to other people, and you can't control what
Can't
people
control if
do.
they're bringing
And
friends in or whatever.
No.
I know.
we've tried really hard to work with the local police departments and
Okay.
the hotels to try to make sure that if people are causing problems, that we're moving them
Right.
along.
And that's the
I mean-
problem. Everybody pays for the few that are ruining it, so.
Yeah, I mean, some come in and they're absolutely fine, and they're so appreciative, and then you have those few that cause the problem.
Yep, and that
And
ruins it for
they ruin it, yeah. And it's unfortunate. I mean, we do, in the homeless population, deal with a lot of mental health concerns. And, of course, they do better in shelter, which is one of the reasons why the renovations are so crucial. Because if we can have them in shelter as opposed to in a hotel, we have much better control over what they're doing and where they're going and who they're with.
You're only going about 20 more. Is
We're
that
going
gonna be
about 20
sufficient?
more.
Is that, I mean, how many do you guys use with the hotels and, or is that something you'd rather send me in a document?
I can send it to you, but I think last winter was not a good picture of what the hotels would look like on a normal basis. Pre-pandemic, we would be full in the wintertime. We would have our 68 beds filled. Catholic Charities at St. Elizabeth Center would have their 50 beds filled. Prior to 2018, we also had Family Promise, which has since closed down. We took on their beds, but it didn't increase our capacity. It just gave us more funding for those beds. So we essentially lost 14 beds in the county when that happened. So we normally see maybe 1 or 2 families that we need to put into a hotel in the wintertime. That's kind of been, in the past, it was like a couple $1,000s a winter that we would spend.
Oh, wow.
And that was it. And this last year we were, Mark, you can tell me if I'm wrong, 300,000?
Oh, really?
500,000
Wow,
in hotel vouchers.
wow.
So last year was not a good one to look at, but prior to, it was very minimal. It wasn't as many rooms, and
That's what I'm wondering, is it 20 more beds? I mean, I know it's a plus. I
It
just
is.
feel
It'll
like
help.
You need more, you know? It sounds like.
we probably do, but then I'd need more space, more land. That's all the space I have. So I plan to maximize what we have, and then if we need to do something different in the future, I'm definitely open to those
Your group is the
opportunities.
most efficient. I do like. I like,
Thank you.
You guys are very effective with the money, I know that. So.
Thank you. All right,
Okay, all
Thank
set.
you all
Well,
very
Thank
much.
you very much.
appreciate you.
Oh, thank you for all that you're doing. We appreciate it.
Yep, Thank
Yeah.
you. Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Okay, Job and Family Services, the next item of business is number 12.
Designate the director to release and accept funds for the period of October 13, 2021 to June 30, 2022 for the Fiscal Administrative Procedures Manual, Chapter 6, 5101, 9682, Inter-County Adjustment of Allocations.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Solid Waste Management District, the next item of business is number 13.
Approve the insurance policy and authorize payment of $10,864 with Colonial Insurance Company for the HHW Collection Center effective October 27, 2021 through October 27, 2022, and will be paid from the insurance expense account.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
I saw the HR director pop in. I thought maybe she was going to do a presentation on that for us.
You need to get our brand new county administrator. That's.
Yeah. Okay, number 14, sanitary engineer. Madam Clerk, please read the resolution into the record.
Issuance not to exceed $2,250,000 water system improvements, North Ridge Road Project Bond Anticipation Notes, Series 2021, for the purpose of paying costs of constructing and acquiring water systems improvements for North Ridge Road Project, together with all necessary appetances thereto.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Okay, Board of Elections, the next item of business is number 15.
Authorize Lorraine County Board of Elections Director to utilize the county's Loramet Visa credit card in the amount not to exceed $2,500 in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code 301.27 and the permissible policy.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion from the board? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to C, lobby session. Welcome to the lobby portion of our meeting. In order to speak on the topic of your choice, you will have had to fill out a slip and turn it into the clerk. Madam Clerk, do we have any slips today?
Do not.
Okay, moving on to reports. D, County Administrator, Mr. James R. White. Do you have a report for us today?
Yes, Madam President.
All right, thank you.
Madam President,
Yes.
Mr. Vice President, Commissioner Lundy. I was just awarded this job, obviously, last week, so my report for today is going to be more of an introduction to the citizens of this county who you've graciously hired me to serve. I'm a lifelong resident of Lorraine County. I was born in Oberlin, raised in Elyria. I've lived in Lorraine. I've lived in the townships, Russia Township and Carlisle. So I have kind of a flavor of the whole breadth of our community, being urban areas, rural areas as well. I attended Lorraine County Community College, so I'm proof that your career can go anywhere when you start at LCCC, and what a great resource it is for our community, and I think we're all in agreement there. Went to the University of Akron and Cleveland Marshall College of Law. I live with my wife, Tara, who's a school counselor at Midview High School, and my two children, Parker and Lucy White, who will be embarrassed that I'm mentioning them in public here. I practiced almost 14 years in an Elyria firm founded in 1900, so my roots here are deep. And I am so happy and so pleased to be here to serve the people. I want to let this board know that I appreciate you coming together in one mind and hiring me, and finding ground in that way. I'm acutely aware that I never received a single vote for county commissioner, so I'm here to push your agenda to work to effectuate the desires of this board and pursue those goals zealously, efficiently, ethically. And I think that we are on our way there. So my second part of my job besides that is pushing the agenda of this board, and what this board would like to do as elected officials is managing the great people that this county has in place. And I've had the opportunity over the last week to go around to the various buildings. I made it to them all, meet with the staff, and then now I'm meeting with the directors. And I will tell you something that you know, commissioners, but I want to tell the residents that may be watching here. We really have an excellent team and great people that just want to do the people's work. And, you know, I went to records, and the guy's so happy about records, and he's so excited about it. And it's great. I mean, you know, there are great people working here doing great work, and they are doing that work, and they're carrying that work through. So I want to say to them that I'm excited to work with them. I want to say to you that I'm excited to work with this board and to the people elected you for a purpose, and my job is to see that through. So I am lucky, I am grateful, and I appreciate the opportunity. So I look forward to giving more substantive reports in the future, but today I just wanted to let the folks know who I am and what I plan to do. If you have any questions, I'm happy. Thank you, commissioners.
We know
Thank you
where
so
to
much.
find you, Mr. Administrator. Thank you. Okay, moving on to E, Assistant County Prosecutor, Mr. Dan Petticord.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have no report today, but I will speak more carefully into the microphone. There is one piece of current litigation that I'd like to discuss when the board moves into executive session.
Okay, duly noted. Okay, moving on to Commissioner's report. Commissioner Moore, do you have a report today?
We pushed our meeting back because we had a meeting with the mayors of the county. They invited all three of us to attend. It was a very good, informative meeting. No discussions on, you know, what they want or anything. Bottom line, it was like what they felt their needs were, and we talked about partnerships. But it was a good meeting this morning. I'd like to thank Mayor Hunter for putting that together and inviting us out. And he said, I think, correct me, I think he said it was the first time.
All
He's
three
had
of
all
us.
three of
yeah.
us there, so, so they appreciated it, and just wanted to mention that, that's all, I guess. It seems like we all have the same goals, it looks like, flooding, sewers, broadband, you know, simple stuff. Thank you.
Okay, well, I guess my report would be a ditto to Commissioner Moore's report. We did, no, that's okay. No, we did go out there. That was very nice of him to have us today. And I want to welcome our new county administrator. He came in on Thursday and got going quickly, meeting people, and we went around on Monday meeting people. So he's doing great and getting on the ground running for us. So yeah, that's about all I have. That concludes my report, Commissioner Lundy.
Yeah, I guess I would just echo the sentiments and feelings of my colleagues concerning our meeting this morning with the Lorraine County Mayors and Managers Association. You know, I think that's a really a great example of the way that so many community leaders work in this county. really stressing working together. We have the Lorraine County Community Alliance, another group that works together. I remember as a legislator mentioning that to some of my colleagues, and they're like, so wait a minute, so you get township people and city people and village people all together in the room and actually talk about government issues? And yeah, we do that in Lorraine County. And so it's always great to see the mayors and the managers working closely, and certainly appreciate the leadership of Mayor Hunter with that group. And you know, we covered a lot of topics this morning, hearing about their interest. Transportation obviously is always one that's up there, but certainly we want to make sure we can partner with them in every way possible so that we can maximize these Rescue Act dollars as it relates to sewers and broadband and water. And we were also indicating a lot of needs in the community, as you heard earlier, with the Community Alliance, a lot of families really struggling, and how we can partner together and participate and make the county a better place. Want to thank WEOL came over here last week and talked with us about our various issues that are before the voters for a decision. It's always great to have local radio. There's too many conglomerate groups these days where they don't really relate to what goes on in the local community. It's all about ad revenue. I know you need to make the money to pay the bills, but you also hold a public license in the public interest, and that's where the difference comes in, I think, with our local radio stations here. They truly are local, and they invest in the community and are very active in the community. So it's good to have local radio. Just want to send our sympathies out to the family of Dottie Washington. Very active in the community, very active with the UAW. Just a very sweet lady. You could be having the craziest of days, have a very frustrating day, and the minute that you walked up to Dottie, she had that big smile and would sometimes give you a hug and say, hey, things are going to get better. So, but everybody just loved her, and she was a great support system for a lot of people in the community. Also had the opportunity to represent the commissioners at the Holy Day of Atonement with Imam Paul Hassan in Lorraine. That was a very good presentation by a lot of community members, all calling for unity and you know, putting an end to violence in our division and differences, and trying to work together as one community. Also had the opportunity to go over and tour the Lorraine Community Senior Center. Hadn't been there in quite some time, and walk through there. They're indicating that they're certainly struggling to meet the needs of the seniors there in Lorraine, and I think they're going to be in touch with us, trying to see if we can assist them or help them in some way. And the other day we actually had a congressional subcommittee hearing in Lorraine County that took place in El Centro. It was a subcommittee on economic disparity. We had congressional members in Lorraine County that came in from Connecticut and Wisconsin, also that state to the north, I forget its name, but they were here representing congressional leaders. And it was a great discussion, and giving people a good snapshot of still the challenges that many families face, and still the plight of, it seems like the wealthy are getting wealthier, and the poor definitely continue to struggle. So, but it was great that Congresswoman Marcy Kaptur was able to convince that subcommittee to actually come to Lorraine County and hear the local voices. And that completes my report.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. Our next item is G, the clerk's report. Madam Clerk, do you have a report? Yes, you do.
Tomorrow at 9:30 will be your first budget hearings. Next Tuesday, we'll have an investment meeting at 9:30 or 11 a.m. And then the following Thursday will also be our second budget hearings.
Okay, our next item is H, board correspondence. I move to waive the reading of the board correspondence due to an executive session we have scheduled.
And I'll second that motion.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy.
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
At this time, I move to adjourn into executive session to discuss personnel issues, employment and new hires, and current litigation.
Second?
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Madam Clerk, please call.
Discussion?
Any discussion, Commissioner Moore?
Keep it at least 45. Can we shoot for a goal? That's all I'm asking. Like, I got a 1 o'clock, so that's why I wanna.
We have a hard stop then.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay.
Then that's the end of my discussion.
All right. Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy.
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
I guess.
We have returned from executive session and our meeting is back in session. I move to amend the agenda to consider the amendment to a resolution.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Okay, I move to accept the compensation agreement as amended between the Commissioners and Columbia Township as originally approved Resolution Number 21-565 on September 15th, 2021.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Any discussion or commentary from the board? Okay. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Okay, moving on, I move to approve the personnel summary sheet.
Second.
Motion was made by Hung, seconded by Lundy. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye, with the exception of crime lab number 1, I'll be voting no.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Meeting announcements. The next regularly scheduled board meeting is Wednesday, October 27th at 9:30 a.m. Is there any further business from this board? Since there's no further business, this meeting is adjourned.